My buddy Rob and I do a Star Trek podcast. Actually, we do several Star Trek podcasts, but tonight we're doing our favorite Star Trek podcast because this is our space. Nobody else operates in our space. That's right. It's in your. Is that a Trek in your pocket? With Butch and Rob and Rob and Butch and Rob here to talk about another novel. But first, let's introduce Rob. Let him say a few words before we jump into this thing. Rob, how you doing this evening, buddy?
Boing! That is a Trek in my pocket, Butch. I'm doing good this evening. You had me at sequel to a book that's a sequel to an episode of the original Star Trek, and it's Spock-centric. I'm in, baby. I'm on board. You're in my wheelhouse. You're speaking my language, so...
Hey, and,
yeah.
And what did I establish last week? Time travel episodes are my speciality for me. So it feels like this is in my wheelhouse, too. But I'm just not sure how into sword and sandal epics I am. So we'll find out. It's got a lot of promise, but I'm just going to say it's not going to be like one of my Mount Rushmores so far. I don't think. How's that?
Well, what if I told you it was like a game of Tehran's vibe?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, is that explain? Is that why Tyrion was in Chapter 6? Is that what that was going?
And
on?
I think Shire could be a Vulcan male's name, right?
Yeah,
starts with S, 5 letters. I'm in, baby.
Feels very good.
Yeah,
yes.
no, this is a novel that, spoiler, I enjoyed. Is it a tremendous novel? I don't know, but it was fun. So
there you go. Oh yeah, hey, let's say what the novel is. Yes, by the way, yes, Time for Yesterday, number 39 in the Pocket Books Star Trek universe from April of 1988. My God, we were just about to be high school graduates when this book came out. This is probably the last one that came out before we graduated, I think.
Yeah, do you remember it at all, Butch? I remember it fondly.
I do. I remember it, but the thing is, I remember this one better than I remember the one before it. So we'll see how that goes. It's always fun when we do these out of order. I think we've done another one that was out of order. We ended up doing both the books, both of the My Ally and The Romulan Way. I think both of those are by the same author, and we did them out of order, and that worked. And I feel it feels like maybe this will work too. I think that's written in such a way that you don't have to read them in order, but it probably helps a lot to have read them in order. Yeah, this is by A.C. Crispin. She passed the mortal coil in 2013 at age 63. She died of cancer. Alice Crispin, I believe AC is probably what you do when you're a young writer and you're a female writing the sci-fi. It feels like the DC Fontana thing. Or maybe she's just like, DC Fontana did it. I'll do AC. And that'll be fun. That's her Star Trek name, maybe, I guess.
We could have AC/DC. Yeah.
There you go. She wrote this novel, as I said, and as you said, Yesterday's Sun, which was number 11, which is the earlier novel. She also wrote Sarek, which is a standalone, not in the line of pocket books novels, but it's a pocket book.
Yeah.
And then she wrote a TNG book, Eye of the Beholders, which was TNG novel 11. I've not read the TNG novel.
I don't know if I have that one. I might.
And then she also wrote some Star Wars novels, some Pirates of the Caribbean novels. Didn't know those were a thing. Although I guess probably after the movies came out, right? They started making novels. And then she mentioned that she liked TOS and TNG and DS9, but didn't really like Voyager. I'm on board with that, by the way, so that's great.
I've been enjoying Voyager.
Well, for me, it's like I think I liked it, and then it just at some point I was like, "Why is everybody watching Voyager and not DS9?" And it made me angry and bitter at Voyager and stuff like that. But
well, as you know, Butch, just as a side note here, I've never given Deep Space Nine or Voyager the time of day, ever.
Right. That's right.
And so I'm dipping my toes into those two this summer, and I've enjoyed I'm probably halfway through season 1 of Voyager, and I've probably watched 6 of the Deep Space Nines, and I've liked them both. So, it's nice to know that when I get around to it, there's some more Star Trek I can like. Maybe.
That's exactly right. And it's nice that it's already in the can and stuff like that. So, but of course, as we like to say on this podcast, we remember the days when there was no new Star Trek. When if you wanted new Star Trek, you read the novels, and that's what you had, and you liked it. So there we are. So A.C. Crispin's novel, Yesterday's Sun was a sequel, as you mentioned, to All Our Yesterdays, the second to last TOS episode, featuring Zarabeth and an ice planet and a witch planet and Mr. Atos. Yeah.
Where would you find that book these days?
Find what book?
Yesterday's Sun. Where would you find that these days?
I'm guessing there's a joke here. I would probably say a bookstore, but where would you?
Library.
What's library? Okay, thank you. That's well played. I actually probably used to be able to find these books at libraries, but I would suggest it's probably pretty hard to find the pocketbook Star Trek novels at libraries anymore. They've been checked out.
You can find them in a used bookstore everywhere.
Oh, that's exactly right. So this novel is an interesting one. You know, we've had a couple novels where they were dealing with the universe itself or the galaxy itself was nearing an end, a very accelerated end. I think the Prometheus design, we had that where where the planets were going insane and killing each other, alien abductions, and then we had the 3-minute universe, which was heat death. Well, you know, the heat death was expanding and consuming the galaxy, and in this one, it's a familiar, I was going to say familiar face, but it's not a face, a familiar entity that might be causing it. That's right. It's the Guardian of Forever, which is from the season 1 finale, The City on the Edge of Forever. So they're already wrapping in a couple episodes.
That was not the finale of season 1. That was
you're right. That was again the penultimate, just like All Our Yesterdays was the penultimate episode of season 3. You're exactly right. I forgot. Operation.
Interestingly,
Annihilate! Exclamation point.
Yeah, The City on the Edge of Forever, which is beloved, introduced this really interesting concept of the Guardian Forever, and then they never revisited it in the original show, which is kind of curious because it was such a fascinating concept.
Yes.
And so, man, this is what the novels were made for, exploring more of stuff we got a taste of in the series and didn't get to, I'm Harry Mudded out, so I don't need any more like Harry Mudd novels, but the Guardian of Forever is and All Our Yesterdays is an episode that was good and had some intriguing ideas.
Yes.
So this is, to me, these two, I don't know, Yesterday's sequels are sort of they sort of represent to me what the Pocket Universe opened the door to. Like, hey, we can, if you have an idea that you like from the original series, write a book about it. Yeah. Write 2 books about it. And so that's cool. I like that.
You're exactly right. I do remember thinking when we did our episode by episode walkthrough of TOS that All Our Yesterdays had one of the more fascinating science fiction concepts. The idea of how would you, if your planet's going to die and you don't have interstellar travel, how do you escape? And the idea is you escape into your past. That's an interesting, what are we going to do? Destroy the planet? The planet's about to blow up anyway. So how bad can it be? So we just go back in the past and disappear and live your lives out there, which I thought was fascinating. And so, yeah, it definitely is a concept that really pays dividends. You know, it's weird because we just had a lot of talk, although we never saw the Guardian of Forever in the last book, Ishmael. They talked about it a lot because they knew that there was some sort of time travel thing happening. And so that was how they brought it up. But, of course, they used the slingshot time travel where you use a large galactic gravitational well and then you zoom really past it and slingshot around it, and then you go so fast you travel back in time, that kind of thing. But, yeah, they did bring it up in the last novel, which we did, which was kind of coincidental, I thought. But in this case, this novel, the thing I think is interesting about this novel, it was written in 88, which is 2 years after Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home came out, and a year before Star Trek V came out. But this one is set between Star Trek The Motion Picture and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which is an interesting choice of kind of an era to put it in. I don't know what time period the first novel took place in, but I assume it was a while before this one.
Well, yeah, well, they were saying that was 3.5 years after the original mission ended, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking like, the series ended in 1969.
Yeah.
And if we assume that they were about to wrap up their 5-year mission, which I think is probably fair.
Yeah.
Then you're looking at maybe 1973 or something, in our time would have been when the motion picture took place. Of course, it took place in 69 or 79.
Yes, exactly.
Wrath of Khan, they seem to, it seemed to be like maybe another 5 or 6 years had passed between the motion picture and Wrath of Khan to kind of get the years back in line with our universe.
That's right.
So that is, that's another really interesting time period. The time period between the end of the series and the motion picture is one fans have always wondered about. How did the mission end? What happened in that gap? And there's been books written about it, blah, 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 trying to fill it in.
Of course.
But then you have this other big gap between the motion picture and Wrath of Khan. And so I think it's a fun choice of like, what was going on after the motion picture? Because it really isn't referenced in the Wrath of Khan. They don't really say anything about the motion picture.
Yeah, it's as if it didn't happen. Whereas they give mention to both of them, although not directly the Wrath of Khan in this one, but they do a good job in the epilogue of setting it up. It's like, hey, maybe I should think about finally meeting that son of mine that I've never got around since Kirk, and maybe I could stay close to home to do that and stuff like that. And Spock, you could teach you could teach the recruits and on the Enterprise, and they're setting it all up. It's kind of fun.
Well, the other thing is in Wrath of Khan, they say, wow, it's 15 years ago or whatever that we dumped this guy off there, which would be in line with the time since the series.
Right.
But obviously then if it's 15 years since you dropped Khan off and the first movie was 3.5 years after the 5-year mission, then we've had some time pass no matter how you slice it, probably 5 or 6 years.
Yes, exactly. So that's at least that, right? So they're older, but they're and they've given some time for absence making the heart grow fonder for this character. We probably haven't said it directly, although we've been nipping around the edges on it. In the first novel, Yesterday's Son, of course, we learned that Spock and Zarabeth had a kid. Although Spock was, let's just say, an absentee father. Probably wasn't his fault. But yeah, he was not around for that. But then finally he meets his son. I'm going to say this, Rob. I was startling distance into this book before I put Zarabeth and Zar together. I don't know why that took me so long. I was like, I don't know, I'm like page 200 something when surprise us, Zarabeth shows up, and I was like, oh shit, Zarabeth, Zar, I get it. Because I was saying Zar, not Zarabeth. Zarabeth and Zar. Well, they pronounce different. That's just how I pronounce them. I have no idea how you say Zar.
Well, what I remember about the first book, and I think we should, in a minute, discuss the episode a little too, because it's relevant, but what I remember about the first book is it was a little more unpleasant. Spock was kind of a dick to his kid. The kid was on the Enterprise, didn't fit in. Yep. Spock was in Sarek mode of being the strictly Vulcan, blah, blah, blah. Every time the kid raised an eyebrow, he's getting scolded or whatever. And so I remember enjoying that book, but it's not... it's troublesome to see, my favorite characters in the Star Trek universe, Spock, kind of being an asshole. Yep. To a kid who, in a lot of ways, is like Spock, a fish out of water, doesn't fit in with, he's an outsider. And Spock wasn't being maybe as cool about it as he could have been. So this book, I would say, of the two, is more enjoyable, where Spock's trying to, maybe correct some mistakes he might have made as a parent. Although, like you said, it would be quite a startling thing to realize that, by the way, you had a kid, but well, which happened to Kirk too, right? Like, oh yeah, by the way, like Kirk knew he had a kid, but it was somewhat sprung on him. Like, hey, out of the blue, you have an adult kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you're learning it that way is always fun, for sure. Although there's other ways to learn here about you have a kid or about to have a kid. That's always fun too. Present company included. All right, so here's what I think about it. So if we're going to talk about the original episode, All Our Yesterdays, the penultimate episode of the original series. So in it, they visit this planet Beta Niobe, the star Beta Niobe, and the planet Sarpeidon, and the planet is about to be destroyed because the sun's about to go. The Beta Niobe is about to go supernova, and take it with it. So this is so they've got to figure out how they're going to reach out to the civilization and see if anybody needs to be rescued. They go there and nobody's there, and they're like, "Where is everybody?" And they find this old guy in a library, and Mr. Atoz, and he's like immediately starts busying himself trying to get them to go through this portal, which they don't know what he's trying to do, but of course he's trying to send them back in time because that's what they've done is they've escaped the death of their son by going their star rather by going into the past, and so they go into separate pasts. McCoy and Spock go into an Ice Age past, and Kirk goes into kind of more like the late medieval, early Victorian era past or whatever. The Three Musketeers past and stuff. They each have their own adventures. But the interesting thing is the place where Spock and McCoy go was a place where whoever the leader of Sarpeidon was at some point sent their political prisoners with the Atavachron, the time travel device. And so Zarabeth is a political prisoner basically sent there, and I got the sense that there's nobody else, no other humanoids civilizations living. It's so far back in time, 5,000 years ago is what they say, that nobody else is living there. Or maybe it's like on Earth 5,000 years ago when it was caveman. I guess 5,000 years ago there were civilizations and stuff. But it's funny because what we're going to learn is that there were other civilizations around, and just Zarabeth was living maybe in the polar region or whatever. We don't know.
Yeah. Or at least isolated enough that she's not going to go visit anybody. And they even said, like, Kirk and Bones, they were about to freeze to death in a couple of minutes when they arrived there. Granted, they weren't dressed real well, but
pack a hat or something.
She's probably not, if you got dropped off on the North Pole, even when it's not an ice age, you're probably not going to encounter any other people if you can't make a 300-mile trek or 1,000-mile trek.
Especially if you don't know where they're at, right? It's like you're just going to start wandering around looking for people. Well, it turns out that we're led to believe that Zar, Spock's son, at some point the mother dies, Zarabeth dies, and now he's alone. And so, what choice does he have but to wander around? And what's a guy to do when he wanders around but become the king of somewhere and invents stirrups and catapults and learn a lot about everything else and stuff like that and become a ruler. Now, they do suggest that when he came in the first novel, when he visited the Enterprise, he came back with some record tapes. So maybe what he did is he came back with record tapes that it told him where people are at on Sarpeidon during this time, right? So he's armed with that knowledge. He's able to reach them and know enough about them to make his way through and stuff like that. And he's really clever because he has knowledge of future technologies and stuff like that, so he can be useful. And next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire.
Well, and he's a smart kid. Spock's his dad. To say nothing of Zarabeth, who was a great guest star on the original show. Yes. But she seemed like she was smart. He's going to have physical advantages over the other residents of that planet. So Spock's kid Zar has some advantages. The interesting thing about the original episode was, even though McCoy and Spock were only there for a few hours, there was a chemistry between Spock and Zarabeth, and I think we all thought, if we thought about it, I think we all thought, Spock probably nailed that chick because Spock was not being himself; he was being emotional and passionate. Yes, and they had a chemistry, and McCoy was unconscious for a while, and it only takes a few minutes. And...
he ate animal flesh and he liked it. I mean, that's how you know something wasn't right. Plus, they talk a lot about how because they were not prepared by the Atavachron, they become creatures of the era 5,000 years ago. So he becomes a 5,000 year ago Vulcan, which never made a lot of sense to me, but I bought into it. It feels like if they had used an Atavachron to prepare them, that would explain why he was attuned to being a 5,000-year-old Vulcan. But because they didn't, that's the reason he's like that. Doesn't make any sense to me. But you know what? We're suspending a lot of disbelief in an episode where you're going back in time. So
what do we say a lot on this in our other podcast?
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I mean, what I thought about, I guess what I thought about it is that as galactic threats go, we've had a few of them in the novels, and of course we had a lot of them on the movies and stuff like that. This is a galactic threat they imply that it's the universe that's at threat or in danger here, not just the galaxy. We don't know if that is, but we're going to take their word for it. There are stars that are getting way too old, way too fast, including Proxima Centauri A, which is right next door to Earth. So it could happen in our neighborhood and stuff like that. And Kirk's got a cabin in Zarabeth Valley on one of those planets, and it goes bye-bye. So no sooner does he lose his mom, which is implied that happened not too in the recent past for him, but also now he's lost his little cabin on Zarabeth Valley, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot at stake here, and it starts pretty fast. So anything else? Go ahead.
And Butch, the pocket novel, there's a handful of pocket novels that reference Kirk having a place on Alpha Centauri.
Yes. I will say this. There is a lot of cross-pollination between these novels. And as you go farther, you see more of it. I mean, we meet Lieutenant Narat, who's the Horta, Lieutenant, who's by a different author in this book. She's familiar with the animated series because we get a reference, although we do not see him, of Commander Eric's, who was the helmsman in place of Chekhov in the original animated series. By the way, Chekhov not in this novel because Chekhov is on the Reliant at this point in this novel. So he's not...
And there's a couple of books that have like Lieutenant Thompson, the security chief. These are people that I feel like they were on the original show, even though they never were. Yeah. Because they're in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 novels.
Why would they keep bringing them back if they were in the original show? And you start to feel like they were, but they weren't. We know they weren't. But it's good because when authors start using each other's characters that are new characters, I think that's pretty cool. It helps build the shared universe, even though it's only sort of shared. But that's okay because we understand what we're dealing with in terms of continuity and stuff like that, and that's okay. We can live with it.
Well, and I think it just shows the reason why we greatly, I'm speaking for both of us, greatly prefer the pocket novels over the fun but bananas Bantam novels.
Bananas. Bananas. Crazy. Yeah, they definitely leveled out and figured out their footing and figured out how to do this stuff. By the time I think Galactic Whirlpool had started to figure it out, and then that was the last one, and then they're like, okay, let's sell this to a different company and see if authors can restart this thing the right way. That's good. And I say that knowing full well that there is a telepathic marsupial in this book, so it can still be weird. We're not saying it's immune for weirdness. We're just saying it doesn't always have to. It can also be kind of like more level-headed as well as weird.
Well, it'd be fun. It would be a fan series based on the Bantam universe, with just like crazy shit happening every week.
Well, there's the Klingons over there in their little glass cages that the Organians put them in.
We got Spock holed up in the engine room because he's an anti-Spock, whatever, rigging, everything to... Remember that one, Spock Must Die? Is that the one where they got banned? Yeah, it's the same episode. Yes. Same book.
That's exactly right, yeah. It's fun time had by all. Yes, exactly. All right.
I don't need Omni, but
there was a time when we thought Omni was cool for about 15 minutes, and then we read chapter 2, and it was like, all right. But at first it was really cool. All right, so here's the thing. So this novel, I want to point out that this, there's different levels of douchebaggery among novelists and stuff like that. But this novel starts with a dedication, then has acknowledgments, then has quotes, then an introduction, then a prologue. I'm like, all right, slow your roll, A.C. Crispin. Jesus Christ. Pick 3 of those and go with it. Why are we doing all 5?
Why is my novel extra Crispin? Yeah.
It's original. I like the original, not the extra Crispin. That's right. So, yeah. So all those things, and then it leads to the prologue. And, of course, the prologue, we often get prologues in the books. And the prologue is our Conan the Barbarian novel where we meet second in war Cletus and aide-de-camp Voba. And we're talking their sovereign...
War Cletus.
Cletus.
What?
Damn Dukes, damn Dukes, damn Dukes. Yeah, I'm with you. But here's the thing. So they're like aides to the sovereign, and we don't know who the sovereign is when we start this. Although you were kind of implying, if all you know is the cover of the book, you're kind of putting two and two together, right? So
yeah,
they're preparing for a battle. We learn that the sovereign has invented catapults. They've got all this, which he just invented and stuff like that. They lay odds about how they might be all dead soon because they're heavily outnumbered. There's some talk about a high priestess or something, who's a widow herself, and he's a widower, so they have that in common. And there's a premonition of his doom that's been put forward, presumably. So that's a prologue, and then we're led to believe maybe he takes his hood off, and somebody says, "You're a Vulcan." And then
do you think, Butch, that Crispin was like, I like sci-fi and I like fantasy. Fuck it, I'm gonna write both.
Oh, yeah.
In one book.
Oh yeah. Okay. As right after last week, with doing the country and western thing on through the time portal, it's like it's literally the Gene Roddenberry kind of wet dream. That's like, and next week we'll go to the gangster planet, and this week we'll go to the Roman Empire never fell, and then Nazi Germany took over the world, and yeah, it's very much that, right? It's like if we were going to use a time machine, we would go and do all these things, right? We would have. By the way, my favorite thing is the cover for this book. Cover art is by famous, legendary Conan the Barbarian artist Boris Vallejo. Yeah, well, I think Frank Frazetta is the most legendary one of Conan stuff. But all those kind of like sword and sorcery epics novels. It was Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. This is Boris Vallejo version. It's like, at no point did they describe him as, riding a horse without a shirt on it, let alone they don't even call them horses in this universe. But, when we understand what we're doing, as soon as you see that picture, like, guy with sword riding out of Guardian forever, I think we can already put together what this novel's talking about, right?
Yep.
So it's rare that the novel's artwork tells you enough about the story to jump into the story, but we've seen some artwork that is like, what in the hell does this have to do with the story? This is high on point right there. So
I could have gone for some giant ants, but outside of that, this is pretty good.
All right, so chapter 1 then takes us to San Francisco, presumably current day in the universe. There's a man standing by a cliff. It's Kirk. He's he's standing by a cliff in San Francisco, not too far from Starfleet headquarters, as it turns out.
Well, that was fun because I've been to San Francisco a handful of times in the last 10 years, and I was like, oh yeah, I know where this is.
That's really fun when you can place that, exactly. So, all right, and what is he doing there? Presumably he's just looking up.
Taking a late lunch. Taking a long lunch.
And
he's dreading his admiralty duties and like, I'll get back when I get back. I can relate, Kirk.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Fire me? It's like, knock me down a rank? What are they going to do? We also learn right here that his mom's recent death. Is it Mom Winona? Is that his mom? I thought so.
Yeah, that's fun because we had a Winona in the movie, right? Spock's mom. But
I almost did that. I was like, they did it. No, it's Spock's mom. But yeah, Winona Ryder played Spock's mom in 2009 Star Trek. That's right. I thought that was fun.
It was fun.
And meanwhile, he's immediately called back. They send a lieutenant, Thalen, who's an Andorian. Get a very brief couple sentences from an Andorian in this book to bring him back to talk to Admiral Morrow. Something urgent. We know there's something urgent. And by the way, we packed your bag because you're going to be traveling. So don't get comfortable. And so then they ask. I
enjoy all this shit too.
Yeah.
This stuff's good stuff. The more mundane Admiralty stuff, which we don't know anything about. All we know about Kirk as an admiral is he's going to have a talk that will not last more than 3 minutes, and then he's going to be captain again.
That's basically all we've seen of Admiral Kirk.
Yeah.
So anyway, he by the way asked the lieutenant to send the Commander Eriks to the service for the Constellation. We don't know what's happened to the Constellation. Maybe Kirk doesn't know what's happened to the captain of the Constellation, but we're about to learn it. And so he goes to Morrow's office. Morrow is, of course, the admiral who we meet in Star Trek 3. I believe that's right. So after Star Trek 2, they come back and they meet Admiral Morrow. He's the black dude with the mustache who tells them that the Enterprise is going to be decommissioned. So that's Admiral Morrow.
Yeah.
And that was not, it was Nagura who was in charge during the motion picture, but somewhere between it becomes Moro, and he's still
I
in
wish
charge.
we would have got to see Nagura somewhere. What an interesting character he's referenced in a million books too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that would have been cool. So, and by the way, so he goes to Moro's office, and Spock is there. He's like, "Well, that's interesting. I didn't expect to see you here." And then they find out how bad things are. So they're, stars are aging way too fast, and one of them is right in the neighborhood. Alpha Centauri B is going red giant way too fast, and it's about to swallow. Almost going to swallow Centaurus, which is a reference to another book here. And that's the place where Kirk has a house in Garravik Valley. Crisis on Centaurus. Maybe it's this crisis. Yeah. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read that book.
And wasn't it in the... I forget which episode, but the one where we had Cochrane with the companion.
Oh,
didn't say he had lived on? He said he's from Alpha Centauri.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He is from Alpha Centauri. Whether it's from Centaurus,
he probably just meant he lived there.
Yeah,
at some point. I don't think it necessarily has to be contradictory to him living in Montana for a time as well. But yeah,
Montana, you invent your thing, then you move to Alpha Centauri because you're the first one to fly there because you invented warp drive. And then you settle down there, right? Exactly. So
I'm on board.
Yes, yep. And you build a house in Garravik Valley, although you call it something else. Yeah. So.
And why would they call it Garravik Valley, Butch?
Of course, that was his first commander on the Farragut, of course, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in memory of the commander who he eventually came to grips with the fact that it's not his fault that the commander died, he named a valley after him, and that's fine. So,
yep.
So this is where we also learned that some starships have been destroyed, and some of them have been lost, and some of them it's somewhere in between. That constellation, we're going to learn later, was not destroyed per se. It's on the edge of an event horizon for a black hole. So that means we're going to get to look at it forever, but they've already died. Where in their own experience, they've died. We're just watching it, the beginning of that forever.
Which is a fun thing to describe. It has really nothing to do with anything as far as the book goes, but it's a fun / horrifying concept.
And and Crispin gives a little bit, probably a couple pages of semi-science on that. I don't know if the science holds up or if it holds up now, but it's cool because we're science fiction fans. We're not astrophysicists, so we're just going to take their word for it. That's fun.
We know what actually happens when you go into a black hole.
That's right.
One of two things. You either meet some annoying little robots or you rip your eyeballs out. And
either way, what bliss. That's right. So the problem is they also learned that there's another ship coming from Alpha Centauri that has somebody on it that they need to go rescue, and that is McCoy is on a ship that's trying to escape Alpha Centauri before it's too late. And
we find out that McCoy is an instructor, right, at the academy. That's fun.
Yeah. Absolutely, that's right. He's going to be in early retirement, or was in early retirement, but now Captain Sir. He's not. He's an instructor. So chapter 2 starts. McCoy, we learned, was recalled to Starfleet because, and hence he's on this ship. But the ship is in trouble because as these suns, when they go way too fast, it's like an electromagnetic pulse effect that kills all the systems on the ship. So it's drifting and in trouble, and the sun's going to swallow it. But they got to get there first, and so they do. They bring Moro with them on a scout ship, and once again, Kirk finds himself as an admiral and also a junior officer on a ship, just like in Prometheus design, although he didn't get knocked down a peg in this case. It's just he's with Morrow. So at some point, Kirk ends up taking the helm and doing some piloting and doing some math, light math, of all things. I'm like, Spock's right over there. Why don't you just ask Spock to do the math? Instead, he asked Spock to check the math. But it's a good reminder that the original series had Kirk be like a nerd and a bookworm and an egg.
Smart
guy, right? So he can do this stuff, and they're reminding us.
Whatever department that had a problem, the only people that know how to fix it are the head of that department, Spock probably, and Kirk. He was just really the perfect leader because he also knew about every inch of that ship, and he was a smart guy, and he was, a bookworm, like you said, and he didn't just sit there and seduce women and play poker. He did the legwork, and so he was a very capable commander, unlike in the new movies where he's just some punk who went from bar fight to captain of the Enterprise. That just pisses me off. But whatever.
Either think or you sink in Lieutenant Kirk's class. That's right. So, yeah. So they figure out how to rescue the people off the ship, and the way they're going to rescue them is very Star Trek Into Darkness. Like they're all going to put on spacesuits and connect to each other, and then they're going to kind of jet over, and we'll catch them in our landing bay, and that's what they do. And one of them is Bones, who, I like at the end of it, he takes off the suit, and he says, "I could use a shower," and I believe Spock says, "Yes." Yeah, because he's been in that spacesuit for 6 days or something like that. We learn about or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty.
Well, he's always bitching about the transporter. So how do you like the transporter now that you had a very exhilarating jaunt over to the ship, not using it?
Given the alternative, it's like maybe you might reconsider. So then we get the long kind of rest of the chapter is the big three catching up. They learn about the problem is time, and that it's universe wide, and that the universe could come to an end in 90 days. And I put 3 exclamation points. And then it started on Planet Gateway. And that, of course, is something we all know because that's arguably the second or third best known episode of the original series. I'm going to say Trouble with Tribbles. It's the best known. But if you're a real fan, you probably know City on the Edge of Forever and The Guardian of Forever. So there was a research team that was there, and they were studying. They're now dust, billions of years old dust, because they got hit by a temporal wave and it aged them billions of years in a microsecond or something like that. So this is not a safe assignment that they're going to get. They're going to have to go there and figure out how to stop this. They get hit by a time wave, and next thing you know, you're a trillion years old in a second or whatever. Spock suggested, why don't we get a telepath to talk to the Guardian? And Morrow's like, well, what made you think of that? He's like, well, it just so happens I know a telepath who talked to the Guardian once before. Who is that? That's my son. And Morrow does the spit take. What? End of chapter. Well done. I thought that
was good stuff.
Yes. So then chapter 3, he's going to explain, okay, so there was this star, Beta Nobi. You remember that episode, All Our Yesterdays, Admiral? Do you remember that one? It was 14.5 years ago. Yeah, so anyway.
Well, but also the problem is here, the Guardian is not itself. Yeah. The Guardian isn't like, oh, yeah, a question. I've awaited a question. Let's have a conversation.
Since your sun burned hot in space, I have awaited a question.
Well, now he's not talking. He's not listening, and he seems to be distracted or out of his mind, whatever.
Yeah.
Something's up with the Guardian. That's why Spock's like maybe a telepath.
Somebody needs to talk him through whatever's going on. So as they're leaving, they watch as Alpha B, the star, grows and swallows up the systems as they warp away. I wrote, seared to a crisp, is what I wrote. I think they used the word seared, by the way. So they were
we sort of saw this right in Generations. What happens if you make a star go nova? And it's, that was pretty cool. But it's and they have an interesting thing here too, where like we want to evacuate and help as many people as we can. Well, we have a ship that can hold a few hundred people. Planets getting swallowed up in a matter of minutes is a problem.
Yes. Very big problem. It's totally a problem, and it's going to be overwhelming because it could be happening everywhere all at once, everything everywhere all at once, and so there's no way they can deal with it. So they're going to have to find a way to stop it.
You can not Roy Kirk, you can Dunkirk as much as you want, but it's they've got to fix this problem. Like you said, 3 months. That's not a lot of time. Yeah.
All right. So there is this little throwaway page and a half or so, maybe even not even that, where Kirk is sitting there going, what if I were just run away from all this and just, go AWOL? He's like, yeah, that'll be the day. It's like, yeah, that's it. I'm wondering if he's presaging, Star Trek 3 and 4 is basically what's going on.
But like you said, those had already, So this happened. So it's nice when they can kind of give hints about what's going to happen in the movies that have already happened. That's fine.
Exactly. So then it turns out that they're bringing along. They're going to get the crew back together, and yes, Morrow's going to let him take the Enterprise this time. So if he'd have known he was burning his get to use the Enterprise free coupon, he probably wouldn't have asked for it here. He probably would have asked for it in Star Trek 3 instead. But he don't know that, so So they get on board and they're all together again, minus Chekhov and presumably minus Chapel. My Chapel's nowhere to be seen either, and that's okay. And they're also bringing along a furry little telepath, Debarahan, who is a Marischal carrier. Which means we don't know what that means. She's a telepath, kind of a possum-sized, very cute, large eyes, expressive, fun to talk to. Yeah, really well done, the telepathic thing. This one says that this, and this one says that kind of thing. She's 8-year-old, female, and pregnant, I guess, yeah, so she's from the South, is what we're saying. And she and Spock have a long conversation. I'm kidding, of course. You don't know. From the southern part of the galaxy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Down we're on Charon, which is in the southern part of the galaxy. Yeah. So I digress. Yeah. So then now they're going to go, now they arrive at Gateway and they're going to go down on a shuttle. Presumably the conditions don't allow for transporters.
Northwest snobbery rears its ugly head with Butch and Rob, yes.
That's right. The Pacific Northwest is perfect as long as you don't like sunshine. That's right.
Yeah.
So they go down there and they one wrong move and they're going to be billion-year-old dust. So they got to be very careful. And it immediately goes sideways. They go down there. They say, "Okay, Debarahan, talk to the thing," and she does, and it immediately nearly kills her. She gets sucked down some hole because it's so screwed up and it's so powerful. This thing is that she just immediately collapses, and Spock has to yank her out and save her from the abyss of the mental abyss.
Yeah. And she's in a coma, basically. And what do Guns N' Roses tell us about a coma? You're going to get nagged by your exes while you're in the coma. Yeah, that's presumably what's happening to her.
Yes.
She's out, and her cute little newborn babies don't have anyone to bond with or telepathically cuddle with. Yeah. So I like all that shit. Does it really have anything to do with anything? No, but it's fun. It's interesting, and I liked it.
Yeah, me too. It was a very nice detail. And introducing kind of the Esper kind of stuff, they bring that in. Yeah. So they struggle to save the 3 pups. They're out of the pouch, then they're back in the pouch. Then they beam up, and Spock says that the Guardian seems to be simply off duty. It's not malicious. It's just not doing its job, right? And because it's not doing its job, time is running wild throughout the galaxy, basically, is what we're left to imply.
This is an interesting idea.
Yeah. And then, hey, listen, Uhura gets something to do because Spock goes to Uhura and says, "I could use a favor. These 3 Marischal pups need somebody to bond with, and their mom's unconscious. So would you be willing to house sit 3 Marischal pups for a while?" And she says, "Well, sure." And while they're talking, he kind of implies they've all met Zar in the previous novel, but she doesn't know who Zar is. But he tells her, yeah, Zar's my kid. And she's like, "Oh, I kind of wondered about that." Yeah. So she gets a little insider baseball knowledge and stuff like that.
And you know why she wondered that? Because Spock being back with his boots still off.
Forgot to put his boots on. Definitely not classic Spock. Exactly. So
you're picturing pups. Did they call them pups? I was picturing.
They called them pups. They're little tiny they're little tiny kangaroo babies, or barely. Yeah. They're still kind of, they don't have fur on them or anything. They're like naked mole rats or whatever.
I'm sure they were adorable.
So immediately Spock goes, "Hey, listen, I'm going to beam down to the planet without authorization and try to talk to this thing myself, and maybe mind meld with it, and so he does all that. And he's down on the planet and he's kind of slowly working his way through communicating with the Guardian. And the Guardian he's barely there. You can tell it's all of its attention is elsewhere. So he's like, "Listen, Sarpeidon's here. Give me a map. Okay, it's over in the left corner. Now bottom left corner. All right, top quarter of the corner, kind of." And then he eventually, "That's Sarpeidon. Now I need that 5,000 years ago." And just as he's about getting there, these 3 security guards beam down. He's like, "Yeah, the captain wants you back on the ship, dude." He's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot that I was not supposed to be here." He says, "Look, and we need to retrieve Zar and bring him back here so that he can talk to the Guardian." And by the way, I did see Zar's death on the battlefield. The Guardian showed me that, so I know that Zar is going to die in battle. But so maybe if we bring him here, we'll save him. I don't know. But the important thing is everything's lost if we don't get the Guardian back. I can't do it. Zar's more powerful than me. I don't know why a quarter Vulcan is a more powerful telepath than a half Vulcan, but whatever.
A little flimsy.
Yeah.
But
we don't know. We don't know about the telepathic abilities of Zarabeth, so we don't know. Maybe
yeah, and what do we say once again? It doesn't matter.
That's right. Yes, exactly. All right. So then they get into costume. They decide that the three of them, because it's the big three, we're going to go back there together. The big three. So they get in costume. McCoy is unhappy with the chafing of chainmail and stuff like that. And they jump through the smoking portal, and when they arrive, they are quickly captured. How Star Trek is it to be almost immediately captured when you arrive? It's like, yeah.
I want it any other way.
Captain, I believe that was the sound of a machine gun bolt. I think we should put our hands in the air, Captain.
Well, barbarians is what I was picturing, like, 3 more barbarians for the arena.
Yeah, that's right. I like how you went to the actual one with barbarians in it, bread and circuses, and I went to the one that has no barbarians in it, but has goons in it, goombas. So yeah, so they do meet Wynn, who's that priestess that we assume Czar, the sovereign, was talking about early in the book.
Who are you picturing for this role?
Angelina Jolie, I think.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron is a good choice. I think that's a better choice. Honestly, I do. But definitely pretty, although they make her sound not as pretty. Well, her teeth aren't exactly straight. Yeah, okay. So it's Charlize Theron probably because she's a little more English, and so, yeah, maybe that makes sense.
Well, and she's, formidable. She's, she's not Winona Ryder, for example.
No, but Laura Croft, of course, is formidable too, so that's why I went with Angelina Jolie, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, did she play Laura Croft? I didn't even know that. Oh.
Where the hell were you in 1998? Good Lord. That was all over the world. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
I was married.
Oh, you make a good point there. All right, so now they're captured and they're prisoners. They do talk to Wynn for a bit, but now they're just in prison. They're trying not to freeze to death. They're trying not to starve to death. And then suddenly they're in the bad guy camp and under guard, and then the bad guy camp gets attacked. Next thing you know, we see it through McCoy's eyes. He's like grabbed and thrown on what seems like a horse and is galloping at high speeds. And he's just like, I just want this to end. Just end it. And then it does end. And then he collapses. And when he wakes up, they're in a different camp. And
I was kind of picturing, what was the Strange New Worlds episode we watched from season 1 where they went back to the planet that was referenced in the cage?
Yes.
They all had amnesia.
Rigel 7, yes. And
that was kind of what I was picturing, because when they were captured, it was roof on them. I mean, it was, they were getting frostbite and the knots were too tight and all that stuff. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great, and I forgot about that, but that's very much exactly what this is, right? Did not dress for this weather is what it was. So then, so eventually they make it back there, and then they meet up with Cletus, who's that second in command, the right hand of the king, as it were, and he has doubts about their story. Oh, sure, the sovereign, sure. And then Spock, I don't know, just takes his hat off. He's like, oh, shit. All right, well, I buy it now, so if you don't mind, I'm going to go get the boss. And
and again, this is, like you said, this is very Star Trek, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, your leader, no, you don't. Well, do you want to take that chance? Okay, I guess so.
Yeah, and so he does. So they get the sovereign, and the sovereign's like, well, I was going to do this other thing. He's like, trust me. Go down to the holding cell and do this first. So he does, and there's a happy reunion and stuff like that. And then he explains that his plan is to marry the priestess Wynn so that they can try and make a military alliance, because otherwise they're going to be worm fodder pretty soon when all these bad guys
die tomorrow or something, right?
Yeah,
something like.
Yeah, he's the prophecy says the lame man is going to die in battle or whatever, and he's the lame man because we're going to learn as this novel goes on that he had an injury that didn't heal because it's the Middle Ages and they don't have med beds or whatever, so he's stuck with.
And I was picturing Ethan Peck for the role of Tsar because
I like it. That's great. Well done. That's an excellent choice. Plus, he's bigger and stronger than Leonard Nimoy, so he's stronger looking. So that makes sense too, because we're learning they describe him as being larger and broader shoulders and stuff like that.
And interestingly, they also said he's what is he, like in his mid-40s in this novel?
Yeah.
So he's not that much younger than Spock at that moment,
right?
Chronologically. which is kind of fun.
And
so that might be
looks wise, he would be. Peck looks younger than his 40s, even though he's 40s because Vulcan's age slower, right? So
yeah, but he mussed his hair up a little and whatever.
Yeah. By the way, you probably haven't seen the 5-minute scene from that was aired at San Diego Comic-Con for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Have you? Well, anyway, we'll talk about that later. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But there is a Vulcan component to that. Let's just put it that way. So, and now let's just say that Zar is exhausted. He's older. He's crippled. He has that unhealed leg wound, but he's glad to see his dad. They come to grips with the fact that they're about to hand fast with a sorceress, and stuff like that. And then he has his first meeting with Wynn, which is a bit awkward, a bit formal. She, it turns out, also lost her husband and child in battle to one of the guys that he's about to fight. So neither of them are looking for love. And I was like, yeah, well, you know how this is going to end.
We
right?
see this coming a mile away. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So then it's chapter 8, and it's feast or famine basically on Sarpeidon. So McCoy was freezing to death and had nothing to eat. Now his belly is full and he's pleasantly warm, and content. And then Zark's talking about his military tactics to Kirk and Spock, cavalries, phalanxes, the art of fighting when outnumbered. He also invented stirrups for this, introduced stirrups to them here because that makes them better warriors, and so, they spend way too much time talking about that. But, of course, I learned about all this stuff in military history in college.
Well, it kind of had a little bit of a private little war feel to it, right? Like, we'll just advances that are sort of not too blatant.
That's right. Although they're still using... it sounds like they're still using swords and maces and not even bows and arrows necessarily.
Yeah.
So there was some talk about archers, I guess. I think there was. But, yeah. Let's just say humanity used the same war technology for 1,000 years or so. So you can introduce them slowly. They're brand new and make a big difference with those things. But he's so outnumbered. Even catapults and stirrups aren't going to make a difference. He's in mortal danger, and his entire society is in mortal danger, is what we learned. So
yeah.
So then they see Zar has painted a mural of the Enterprise on his hull, and it's like, oh, the colors are so vivid. And then I was like, wait, colors are vivid. I mean, it's gray, right? The ship's gray. Do I have that right? Mostly gray, maybe a little white kind of a thing. Yeah. It's fine. And then Zar introduces Wynn to the big three, and the marriage will be as soon as possible. And hey, Dad, will you stand up with me at the marriage and be my best man? And he's like, you got it, son. I'm not exactly sure if that's a direct quote or not, but it sounds like something Spock would say. You got it, son. Sure thing, son.
Yeah, it's and then I think they grabbed their fishing poles and went down to the fishing hole and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the time when Kirk says, you know what, now is a good time to mention to Zar that we need him to come back forward in time with us and talk to the Guardian Forever. And Zar is not sure he can do it. They tell him he's going to die, and he says he knows. And like, how can he know he's going to die? We know because we've seen it, and he knows because he's heard the prophecy that Wynn has said about him. So they both know, but they have different sources that Zar is probably going to die in this upcoming battle. But he still would rather stay there, and it's still his choice. And they're like, the universe is at stake, and we know he's going to die tomorrow, but damn it, it's still his choice. It's like, it feels like you take him against his will, don't you? Do you take him against his will at that point?
Well, and he's acting, it's, I don't know how believable it is, but I appreciated the fact that he felt loyalty to his home planet and his tribe or whatever. He's like, I'm the, assistant mayor. I'm the assistant to the general manager or whatever.
Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane needs me. I can't leave. And
I got Skeeter here. He can't lead the battle. So he's I want to.
Okay, that's who's playing. That's who's playing Wynn is Daisy Duke. Then, right? Okay, are we sure? Okay,
I'm okay with that.
Listen, I have to tell you, this is important. You have not watched enough of DS9 to know this, but there is a character in DS9 named Wynn. She's Vedic Wynn, and then she's Kai Wynn. She is one of the primary villains of that TV series, played by the actress who played Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, that's interesting. I have a crush already on the chick that Neelix is with.
Oh yeah, Kess, of course.
By the way, I think I told you this, but on Star Trek Continues, they had the daughter of Joan Linville play same role in the show.
I remember you said
she looked just like her.
That is well. I should, as long as we're having a digression, I should point out we're going to meet in season 3 of Strange New Worlds. We're going to meet Dr. Roger Corby, apparently, which leads to the question whether we're going to meet Andrea. I wonder if that actress has a daughter. Probably a granddaughter at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know. Because that's what this world needs. Darn it! I'm just saying it right
here. Did you have her at number 1 on all time?
I haven't ranked them yet, but I don't think I have her at number 1. I'm pretty sure I'm Kalinda at number 1.
She's in the pantheon, no matter how you say it. Kalinda would be the only one I think could give her.
If there's a Mount Rushmore, and I don't know if there's a Mount Rushmore, that's the Mount Rushmore right there.
And what's rushing is blood to the nether region.
Nope. Okay, we went there. It's fine. We're going to back away from that. I'm mentioning this because Roger Corby is coming up in my notes because they're doing their getting ready thing and talking about technology. They're doing some fencing. McCoy goes riding with Zar, and Spock tells Zar that he told his parents, Sarek and Amanda, about him. They reminisce about the dead wife and stuff like that. And Zar asks why Spock never married, and I'm like, was it Roger Corby? Is Roger Corby the reason Spock never married? Could it be Roger Corby? Tune in for this next season of Strange New Worlds. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, and then Zar's had a tough life, and Spock says, well, it sounds tough, but at least it wasn't V'ger tough. V'ger had a tough life, buddy. Yeah. So that's nice to get the V'ger reference. That's always good. Again, they're doing a good job. This author is, she's doing a good job of rolling in stories that we're familiar with, not only from the series and from the movies, but from the books, and that's a good thing. So it's a complicated universe that she's weaving, basically.
But she's weaving it expertly.
Yep. Yeah, and then so then they have this long conversation, Spock and Zer do, and then Spock leaves, and Zer's like, somebody else is in the room. Why is that? Why do those drapes have shoes over there? And then she finds Wynn stuck that snuck in and has been dropping some eaves in the room while he's been talking to his dad. And I was like, I ain't been dropping no eaves, sir. And
what else is she gonna be dropping in a minute here?
Yeah, well, I thought that this, when I was writing my notes, I thought this scene was earlier, but I think we have to wait till after the wedding. They wait until after the wedding for that, so just so we know. But it's okay. So they don't. No, they don't. In fact, this is exactly where it happened because the wedding's already happened, right? Or I think the wedding's already happened.
I mean, you got to take the car for a spin, don't you?
That's exactly right. So I said they do the thing, the thing. And then they wake up like they've known each other for 3 days instead of 1 day. It's like they've known each other for 3 whole days or something like that.
They sleep until noon, the whole bit.
This is a very season 3 whirlwind romance. I will say that it makes more sense when they have had a mind meld and now they know all of their shared past histories and separate past histories. It's a little bit more than just, hey, you're a pretty girl playing pool in some old guy's room. I think I love you, but what am I so afraid of?
Well, it sort of reminds me, too, of how Spock and Zarabeth hooked up. They were kindred spirits, both alone in their own way, and that's what's going on here with these two. So
that's exactly right. So the important thing is they made a love connection. So now it's time, however, to go back in time, and by back in time and back to the future, and through the Guardian. And so the 4 of them, the big 4, go back to the Guardian, and immediately Zar suffers as the link to Wynn is broken because she's 5,000 years dead now. And it's severed, and Spock says, yeah, this happens when people are, like linked like this, and then one of them dies. I was like, so...
And we've seen that in the novels too.
Yeah, including those Phoenix novels, right? So yes.
But some of the ones that I think maybe the Vulcan Academy murders or something.
That's exactly right.
someone dies and a spouse dies and the surviving spouse is really stricken and needs to be consoled and helped and maybe even medically cared for. Yeah,
exactly. Slapped around until they wake up, kind of a thing. Yes. So Scotty welcomes him back. Says he'd been gone about 15 minutes, and so they said, well, rather than go up to the ship, let's just try to make that contact with the Guardian right here. So Zar reaches out, but it's different. It's like it's absent. It's like maybe it's on another plane of existence, which is all true, right? We know that. Yep. And then things just go berserk, right? I put down like 2001 Space Odyssey berserk, right? Yep. Zips and zaps and everything's crazy, and then they meet an entity, and that entity looks just like Zarabeth, and I was like, this is when I figured it out. Zar and Zarabeth, I get it now. It's pretty sad that that's where I figured it out, but it seems like I should have figured it out on page 10, but it's page 200 and it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm going to be in the special class for the rest of the semester. It'll be fine. Yeah, so they know it's not her for real, and they know that because Spock seeing her as he remembers her from that 3 hours, or I guess it was 5 hours on Sarpeidon 5,000 years ago, and Zar remembers her right before she died with the gray hair and stuff like that. She's a handsome woman, Bones, but she's older, right? Yeah. So but so anyway, they know that it's got to be an image that they're seeing or whatever, and it turns out she's not anybody at all, but she's one of these entities. There's 8 of them, and they are the people that created the Guardian. They call themselves the Originators, which is original, I guess, or whatever. It's always somebody who created progenitors, the Originators, the Preservers. It's somebody like that, right? So.
Yeah, this part here, I mean, she's trying to introduce an interesting idea. Because, spoiler, some of these whatevers are batshit crazy or senile or whatever, about to be replaced at the top of the ticket. Something's going on with them. But it doesn't... And
about to be replaced at the top of the ticket. It's ripped from today's headlines, yes.
It was a little muddled. I and rushed. I don't know that we needed this, but I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea, I guess, but whatever.
And I think if I'm going to compare this to the Prometheus design, I think that novel did this part better than this novel does. But this is not the primary part of this novel either. I mean, that was, for the Prometheus design, that's what this whole thing was leading up to. And in this case, it feels just like it's kind of, well, we got to do something here, and there's what we're doing. But the whole thing is a MacGuffin to get Spock and Zar back together, right? So.
Yeah, and I kind of was picturing the whatever in Star Trek V when he kind of goes nuts and is like crazy eyes and.
Ooh, that one? Yeah. Okay. Did I get that right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's fun. It's a fun time had by all. Yeah, so Kirk then talks about the ramifications of they've basically announced that they've come back to this universe. They've been hopping around the other universes, which is why the Guardian's been distracted looking for him. But they've come back to die, basically. We're done. We got nothing else to do. We're bored. We're going to die. Some of us are not doing very well. So then we get a confusing conversation with Zarabeth, Flame Shadow, and I'm like, the girl Flame. That's what I'm thinking. When they said one of them is Flame Shadow, I was like, well, that's Flame. And we like Flame, right? That was Angelina Jolie, probably.
We did like Flame.
That's right. Sam Kirk shows up. Gary Mitchell shows up. Jocelyn McCoy, the ex-wife, shows up. And Winona Kirk and T'Pau. All of them show up as one of these entities at some point.
They could have just kind of fleshed this whole chapter, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And they talk about, well, we could take the Enterprise by force, and some are like, the rational ones are like, look, we're not going to do that. They're entities, and they're like, yeah, but we're important entities, aren't we? And it's like Ant Boot, that kind of thing. Can't we do that?
The book that had like the afterbirth of a kitten. You're an ant. Remember that?
Yes.
One of those books?
I think it was the Prometheus design. Yeah. Is what it was. Yeah, exactly. So an example of them doing it better is what I'm saying. But they eventually say, yeah, by the way, there's 1,000 people at least dead already from what's going on. And they're like, well, it's more the Guardian's fault than ours. But then eventually they kind of have a showdown, and some of the level heads of the group win out, and they're like, okay, and they just choose oblivion instead. It's a little more complicated than that. They have to have a trick and a trap, and the guardian helps it a little bit. But I'm just imagining how I want to imagine it happening is a couple of them say, I want to stay.
I was imagining, Athena, Artemis, whatever. Take me, just kind of fizzle out that way.
Yeah, it's the same. We're talking the same thing, right? Somebody's disappearing slowly. At least neither of us went with the Melvin Belly version, and that's good.
I'll tell you that the X episode is chilling. The more I watch that episode, the more I like it.
Yeah, it's brutal. So anyway, the long and the short of it is the Guardian is back to normal. These originator entities are gone. They've decided Oblivion is better. So now they're still in contact with the Guardian, even though they're back up on the ship. He wants to go back to Wynn, and they're like, listen, we can put you back there seconds after you left. She's not going to know you were gone. While you're here, though, we got this fancy medical technology. We should fix your leg before you go into battle. That'd be a good thing, wouldn't you? Maybe give you a little rest, massage, a little time in the hot tub.
Therapy. Yeah. It's logical.
Purified water. How about ice water? Does ice water sound good? It sounds good to me.
How about indoor plumbing? Does that grab you? I mean, let's get you cleared out. We'll give you a nice facial mud pack.
That's exactly right. All this. So then we get along. And by the way, the whole crew is overjoyed to see him. Everybody loves Zar. And so, he fences with Sulu. He loses most of the time, but eventually he beats him when they use claymores. Him and Uhura bond over Deberm and fixing the little furry telepath up. And Spock even helps with that a little bit. And they mind meld. The three of them mind meld, which is mind-blowing in and of itself. Exactly right there. And then we learn that Zar wants to go back now, but McCoy tells him, look, heal up first. It'll help. You might even survive the battle. In fact, that might be why Wynn agreed to let you come, is she thought maybe you would be able to heal up and maybe you'd be able to survive that battle and actually hang out and have more sexy time with her instead of dying. And because his whole plan was, well, I'm going to die, but she's a capable ruler and she'll be ruling my stead. He's like, or I could be around, and wouldn't that be better? So,
well, and his life has been pretty lonely, so he had been less worried about whether he survives or not. But now he's got something to live for. He's got the right woman.
Exactly, but unfortunately,
is not the joy in the learning of each other.
Thank you. For the world is hollow. That's right. It's not the joy. I'm sorry. I can't do my Joanne Linville.
I think she had she had my favorite voice of any chick on the old show. That chick was mesmerizing.
Yep, absolutely. Best eyelashes and the best voice. That's what I think.
Yep.
So now Zar is back home just in time for the battle, like he never left, but he is healthy and rested. Wynn's preparing for battle. They do a little pre-battle sparring. The battle goes okay. They're plugging holes here and there, but eventually he ends up having to plug a hole, and he's face-to-face with no less than Worgan Deathhand. He's the guy who killed Wynn and her boy and her baby daddy, right? So
yeah. And he's an asshole.
Oh yeah, he's an asshole, and he's got that mace for a hand, right? So that's going to come into play a little bit. They battle.
Picturing here for this role.
There's a lot of character actors who've been bad guys in this. I think there's a guy who plays from Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, plays a character named Taserface, who's just a big walking scar, basically, with a gruff voice. And that's what I'm picturing is Taserface. We'll say Phaser Face because it's Star Trek.
I like it.
I'd go with that. But yeah, so they battle, and then he slays him. But then just as he's like, come on, you apes, you want to live forever, somebody else smacks him on the side of the head, and he goes down. It's like, oh shit, did it not work? But
the prophecy, could it be true?
Yeah, it could be true, but then it turns out we've already seen a hint that Spock has left the Enterprise and taken some of his ancient Vulcan's weapons with him. So Spock goes through the Guardian and shows up on Sarpeidon 5,000 years in the past, on wound in his left hand, Lurpa in his right hand, girded for battle. He is jarred I will say, if I may use that word, by the sight, sound, smell of medieval battlefields. But he does kill Zar's attacker with the on wound, chokes him out, and then snaps his neck. Easy peasy.
He had it coming.
And he's relieved to see that Zar is still bleeding, which means he's alive, if barely. But then they're like, yeah, the troops are fading. We need somebody to like rally into battle. So Spock does a little bit of cosplay, I'm going to say, puts on Zar stuff and pretends to be Zar. And they're like, oh, look, the pointy-eared guy with the eyebrows.
Says, I am Zardicus.
Nailed it. I am Zardicus. That's right. They all buy it and they sweep the field. It's just like when the ghosts show up in Return of the King. They're chasing them off the field. A victory is ours, is what it is. They rally the troops to victory. And then Zar gets healed, and then he knows about the victory, and you know he has no way to know about how long he'll live or whatever. But Spock congratulates them on the, never mind. And I'm like, yeah. Well, what do you mean congratulate me about the battle? He's like, yeah, well, I'll talk to you, we'll tell you about it later. Because, of course, he does a scan and obviously knows that Wynn is already pregnant. So that's what I'm assuming the congratulations was for. And so that they say their farewells. And I'm like, till the next novel! Is what I said. I don't know if that's true.
It's nice because, Spock's proud of Zar. Zar's happy his old man came back and, was supportive.
Yep. They had a much better farewell this time and a relationship this time than they did last time.
Yes, and Spock can rest easy knowing that his son lived out his life being a great, supportive husband to gradually turn over the reins to the missus and whatever, and live out his probably live to be 60, Butch.
Yeah, I mean, a good, ripe old age of 60. So the epilogue then is Spock, when he gets back, he does a little recording at the Guardian, and then he goes back up to the ship and he says, I recorded the history of Sarpeidon so I can find out what actually happened. I mean, we know Zar's long dead because it's 5,000 years ago, but it'd be nice to know how it ended. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to look. So he just deletes it, doesn't look. Good for him.
So he tapes over it, tapes like the Rose Bowl or something over it.
Exactly. Kirk decides to try to meet his son David. Like we said earlier, Spock's going to teach the cadets. Kirk's going to monitor it all as admiral in charge of the whole thing. And that's where the book ends, leading right into Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which we've already done. And that leads to the end of this book. So here we are. At the end of episode 18, we've got 18 of these pocket novels done now. Let me tell you where my ranking is. I have this at 9, maybe a little too low. I put it right above the Prometheus design because I think that those two stories are the ones that are most similar. The idea of these extra powerful entities that are inherent and immediate danger to the health and well-being of the galaxy, nay, the universe. The stories other than that are not that similar. That one's not a time travel story. That one doesn't have Spock's son in it, so I think both of those elevate this above that, but they're just too similar for me to not have them near each other. So I have this at number 9. Where dost thou have it?
I'm ranking it as we speak. I think I have it a little higher. I think I'm going to slide it in just ahead of Ishmael that we did last week. Just because, it's Spock and his kid, and I really love the fact that these two novels were written.
Absolutely.
And, everybody was in character. I like the even like the shit with the little kangaroo lady, which
she's in a echidna. She's an echidna. I don't have any idea. She's platypus.
I was able to picture it. I cared about the character, even though it was just introduced for a minute and didn't have much to do with anything.
This one is pleased that you like this one.
Thank you. I like the little, Easter eggs for like Centaurus and Garvik Valley, and I like how it got wedged in there leading into Star Trek 2. I thought it was well done. So, and it's it's got the happy ending. The anything we can learn about the Guardian is always interesting to me. Was it weak having those originators? Yeah, but that's a minor quibble. So I liked it a lot. I'm going to put it third, I guess.
That's good. So me, I'm thinking to myself, I learned that the other novel, the Yesterday's Sun, involves a Romulan plot to use the Guardian, and I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at the top 4 on my list; they're all Romulan stories. So I was like, well, I think I have higher hopes for that story being higher because it's a Romulan time travel plot. We know how Butch loves those things.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one lands. But in the meantime. That's novel 18, and it turns out we've already rolled. I'll pretend to roll here.
And I've already read.
And you've already read. Our next novel, and the next novel is Memory Prime, which is another late season 3 Star Trek episode, bringing that back in. So that's fun. It is, we were talking about this a little bit. It's an interesting choice. I don't know that anybody was clamoring for a sequel to that television episode. Well, I'll tell you what we were clamoring for. We were clamoring for them to build a memory alpha that has freaking shields at least, right? So
mission accomplished.
If you do nothing else, just build a new one and put a shield or some defenses on there.
I didn't need this. This is a spoiler to tease people to come listen to our next podcast about that book, but I didn't really need the sleep until noon scene with Scotty and Mira Romaine that we're going to get in that book, but whatever, good for him.
It's funny because of all the Star Trek novels in the Pocket universe, I think Memory Prime is one of the ones I remember the most, and I don't remember
that. Summer's Plan. That's from Summer's Plan.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, and so because I remember there's some deal where they got to reach the center of a planetoid and they have to have stacks of transporter pads, and they're going to use transporter pad 1 to beam themselves and 4 other transporter pads down. And then there's a transporter pad hop through this metal asteroid or whatever.
It's bizarre, but it's a pretty good book. I'm gonna spoiler have it lower than Time for Yesterday, but it's. Have you started that book yet or not?
I'm gonna lie and say I have, although I haven't. I'm gonna start it tomorrow. So
probably gonna
this week, yeah. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for our next episode, which will be episode 19 of 50 of Is That a Trek in Your Pocket, with Butch and Rob and Rob and Butch and Rob. So whilst you wait, Rob, if you would do the honors, that'd be great.
Yeah, shout out to Zeus and the Macho King because they're going to be in Memory Prime. But as always, Butch, live long, my friend and podcast.